Hi, how you doing? Okay, this playlist is about COD, which is really just the club that my son and I started when he was very young. It really is represents our friendship and respect for each other. Uh, the next video I'll go over the history of that. The idea of starting a club is something that I came up with based on something that I just a behavior from my past when I was a child. When I was like before, probably like third grade, I didn't really hang out. I had friends, but I didn't really hang out with people. I hang out with dogs and cats, mostly my dog. Um, all my conversation, my dialogue with people was mostly just with my mom. I didn't really talk very much. With my sisters, I just talked about who gets to choose what cartoons we watched and things like that. But mostly I was very much a loner when I was a kid. But I did have friends, and like the thing is the boys that I grew up around, they all were good at sports, and they understood sports. They understood the rules. And my dad tried to get me to learn sports, but I just couldn't. For some reason, I just couldn't understand the rules. I just never knew what was going on. I was always lost, uncoordinated, and people would hit me in the head with the balls, and it would make a fool of me, and it would hurt. They'd hit me in the nose with the basketball and things like that because I was supposed to catch it, and it just like I was terrible at it, you know. So I was like, it didn't seem like I could make friends with anyone. And then on some shows for kids, kids would have clubs, you know, with like secret alphabets and secret decoder rings and things like that. In different clubs, I joined the Willy Wonka fan club, and I thought that was really cool. They would send when Willy Wonka would come out with new candies, they would send me a sample of the candy before it would hit the stores. Like I remember when Runs came out, I knew I'd already eaten Runs before the regular populace was eating Runs because they sent me a sample. And they'd send board games, you know, Willy Wonka board games and everything. And it was just something I thought was cool. So when I'd make friends, I would because my sisters and I, we used to play house a lot. And one sister, my sister Gina, she was always indoors. She didn't want to go outdoors. She thought the girls were always indoors. But then when my sister Stephanie was born, Stephanie disagreed. She's like, "Oh, what? That's I don't. Why have to?" She didn't want to stay indoors just because she was a girl. She wanted to go out and have adventures with me and my dog, and we'd go out and we'd get dirty and skin our knees up and be in the mud and everything. And we liked Pippi Longstockings. She's a redhead, and she liked being rough and being outside like Pippi Longstockings, and she's a redhead. She thought it was cool, and I thought the story was cool too. I liked horses, and she had a horse and everything. And anyway, so we determined there was indoor girls and outdoor girls, you know, kind of two. I still think that there's two kinds of females. There's indoor ones and outdoor ones. There are, and they're really different from each other. The world doesn't realize that. They think all girls are the same, but really girls are not the same. There's indoor girls and there's outdoor girls. And anyway, so that's really where this came from, because what we'd do is when me and Stephanie, you know, we still would play house even though we were outdoors. We'd go outdoors, we would find a place, and we would dig an area and make like a hut, you know, and then that would be the hut. And we'd say, okay, this is where we live. And then, you know, it still was kind of like the same things but outdoors, you know. And so that was how I made friends with boys. Is I would find boys that would want to go on hikes with me, and then we would make a hut, you know, and then And then somehow I figured out if you make a hut, then you have a club, and that's your clubhouse, and so that kind of thing. So, and then later I learned about playing army when after third grade, when I started having more friends. I also realized that you could buy army helmets and army jackets and army things, and then you could be camouflaged in the mountains. But I didn't really like guns and everything and shooting, and I didn't like competition, because when I'd play with other boys, they would want to, okay, you're on this team, you're on that one, and they'd shoot each other with BB guns and everything, even though that's dangerous, and I didn't like it, and so I would find friends that would want to play army, but we'd be on the same team, and the enemies would be a make-believe team. And that was really how I made my friends. I'd find friends that want to build clubhouses and play army and be on the same team. It's a make-believe thing, really just an excuse to wear camouflage and be in the mountains, And so that's really where this whole notion of COD comes from, because then I have a baby boy, my son, and when he was younger, I would take him to the mountains every day for the first, 4 or 5 years of Tafari's life, my son. I took him to the mountains every day. We went up to the mountains. We went on a hike every single day, even in the winter. We'd go up there. I would have a strap-on thing. I could strap him on front or strap him on back, those baby carrier things. Sometimes I'd have him behind me. Sometimes I'd have him in front of me when he was a baby. And then when he was old enough to walk, he would go up with me. And he loved the mountains too. And he was really brave. He would climb right up rock. He'd see a rock face and he'd climb right up it. And I'd have to go behind him and catch him to make sure he doesn't fall, because he was so fearless and everything, So he was so you can see how that happens. So it was me and Tafari, my son, up in the mountains having fun, and so so we started making huts, and I made a place called the Tree House, and then every day we'd go up to this place called the Tree House. It was a ground level tree house, and we called it the Tree House, and I would read to him. The first book I read to him was The Lost Boys, the book that goes with the movie The Lost Boys. Then the second one was The Hobbit. And then the next one was the 21 Lessons of Merlin. And then the next one was the Teachings of Don Juan. So that's all significant. We started out, the club didn't have a name, but we knew we liked the Lost Boys and vampires, and we'd talk about vampires and all that. That's because of his mother and I. That was how we met. We had in common that we both dyed our hair black, liked to wear black clothes, and liked vampires, And so that was something that started from before Tafari was even born. And it just the book, The Lost Boys, was actually Melissa's book. And I looked at it and said, this will be perfect. I'll read it to Tafari. And that was the first book I read to him. And we'd come home and we'd watch the movies. And then after that book was done, we were done with that book, then I got The Hobbit just because I used to like the cartoon when I was a kid. And you can't bring a cartoon up in the mountains. Believe it or not, when Tafari was a baby, you didn't really... You had phones and cell phones, but you didn't really watch movies on them, and it wasn't quite that advanced yet, believe it or not. It probably seems like to Tafari that's always been a technology there, but not really, not when he was a baby. And we'd go up there, and so I'd read him The Hobbit, the book, The Hobbit, and that was when it really started becoming a club. And when we'd go up there, there would be dragonflies everywhere, literally hundreds of dragonflies around the camp thing. So we'd go up there, we'd read the book, and then we'd go watch the dragonflies, and they'd come and land next to us, and we'd look at them, and there was really a lot of dragonflies. They would hang out with us every day up there, I go up there now, and I don't see the dragonflies. It was just something that was happening that during that time, Not just 1 year, but a bunch of years. um, like 20, the year 20, I mean the year, yeah, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, around there, uh, that's that long ago, yeah. Believe it or not, probably was just like 4 years old when this notion of the clubhouse, 3 and 4 years old, took shape. And then the teachings of Don Juan is about a brujo. Brujo means witch or shaman in Spanish, named Don Juan. Don Juan was a brujo of the Yaqui tribe. Yaqui Indians are the Native Americans of the Mexico area. And Don Juan aspired to crows because crows are they're well camouflaged. They're the most intelligent bird, and he would literally shapeshift into a crow and fly away. The book has you believe that that's true, and maybe, and for all I know, it is. The Native Americans in that area are known to be some of the best shapeshifters ever. So that book is really intense. I'll leave in the description box of this video, I'll leave a link to the audio book of that book. It's an incredible book. All those books are good. The Lost Boys, The Hobbit, 21 Lessons of Merlin, and the Teachings of Don Juan. I think I read the Teachings of Don Juan before the 21 Lessons of Merlin, actually. But anyway, yeah, because 21 Lessons of Merlin he was already a lot older, actually. Now I think about it. That was when we were living with Stephanie, my sister, which was way later. But anyway, so all those things are relevant to making the crow. At first we called it the Crow Feathers Club. So anyway, so one thing about this, I'll go over a quick history of the Crow Feathers Club in a second. That's just like this is just about where the notion came from. It's a behavior from my past. So really it's just an effort on my part to be friends with my son, and based on similar interests, okay? So I'll go over that in the next video. But just one thing I want to show you is in my personal religion, the Yan Sui faith, I have 9 sacred candles which represent the core teachings and symbols and beliefs and tools of it. This is a really important candle to me. It always has been. It's Saint Michael. See how he has Lucifer right there? And it's a red candle. So the reason I'm showing you this right now is because Saint Michael is very important to me, to me it represents the birth of the story of good versus evil on our planet, which has everything to do with free agency or not. Both Lucifer and Michael were good guys, and then they had an idea of what it means to be a good guy. Lucifer said this, if people make a bunch of bad choices, they'll just end up in damnation. There's no such a thing as hell. They'll just be stopped from progressing because they'll build such chaos, such ill chaos for themselves, perpetual downpression, and we can't let that happen. So he was not for free agency. But Michael said, no, that won't work. If you don't give people the choice to make a choice between good and evil, because really good and evil are choices, and if you don't have, you can't really realistically be a good person unless you're good because you chose to be good. So Michael believed in free agency, believed that we should give that choice. So Lucifer is fascism and elitism, and it decides what's the best, and it enforces that. The red, the Roman Empire killing everyone and forcing them to be the same religion, and then the Nazis, which were just to revive the Roman Empire, just in red and blood and war, and and that, and Michael's not for that, is all up for that war as far as fighting for the opposite of that, which is free agency. And, some people will go to hell, hell. But that's okay, because heaven wouldn't be worth anything without that option of that freedom of choice. So why this matters for this is because I would never want to force, and it's always been my belief, and it's always been important to me to not make Tafari, my son, feel like I've forced him to have the same religious beliefs, that I've forced him to do anything or believe anything, okay? Especially now that he's an adult. He doesn't have to be Yan Sui, the same religion. He doesn't have to believe or do anything. So COD is a club separate from Yan Sui. There's Yan Sui, which is a more religious thing. It's kind of like training for being a Jedi in real life, really. But the COD is a club because it just represents our friendship, which can be as religious or not religious as we feel like it needs to be, based on common interests and whatever we have going for each other. So that's why the notion of a club. So this video is about where this behavior of making clubs comes from, how it creeped into my relationship with my son, and then how it's not really religious, but yet it is because I'm religious, and so far my son's not very active in this whole thing, because the world around us, the truth is that that's us right there. See, there's Tafari. I started him with dreadlocks, and that's me right there. You can see I had dreadlocks too. The world what Tafari doesn't know, because he was so young, is the world was very worried about me being his parent. They're worried I would teach him to smoke marijuana. They were worried I would teach him that Haile Selassie is God. They were worried that I would teach him Bob Marley is a good person, even especially and even though he smokes cannabis. And so there's always been forces, and there still are forces, and Tafari today still doesn't realize that how real this is, that there's forces around all over the place. The people that call themselves friends and family, people all over, there's forces trying to keep Tafari and I at a distance from each other because they don't want me teaching them these things. Okay, and so that's like I'm assuming that at one point he'll mature enough that he'll realize that it isn't people's place to play that role. It's none of their business, and they don't know everything about what's best and what isn't best for someone. And the whole thing is completely out of line on their part. They need to mind their own business. They don't know what the best thing is for him or me or our friendship. They don't know what the truth is. There's 3 sides to the truth. My side of the truth, your side of the truth, and the side of the truth. Everything's a perspective. All truth is a controlled illusion. It's all an embellished lie based on as much truth as you can muster. Whatever it is that they want my son to believe is probably even more of a lie, because the truth is they don't even care. They haven't spent as much time accumulating a truth as I have. I'm not saying my truth is more true than theirs, but it probably certainly is, because I spent more time on it. So they need to stay away and stop encouraging my son to roll his eyes at me and think I'm ridiculous. So I'm assuming through maturity, eventually he'll realize that I did my best as a parent. I had a history of drinking, but I mostly kept the drinking away from him. I wouldn't get drunk till after he goes to bed, but he still saw me drunk from time to time. But I did my best. I don't feel guilty inside, because I know that I tried as hard as I could, and I spent more time and money and effort on raising them than anything, even than my religion. It was really hard to do. I had to give up a lot of freedoms. I didn't even, no, it's not his fault that I never had dates and things like that, and a lack of friends and stuff. But really, it's just because I was giving everything to that. I think he kind of resents that a little bit. Like, don't make me the bad guy like that. But it's just, he's really important to me. I quit smoking cold turkey before he was born because I didn't want to be a cigarette smoking parent. And but as a Rasta, I don't believe that smoking cannabis and the whole Rasta thing's bad. I believe it's good. I know that it's good. So I'm misunderstood and stuff like that. But this club, again, like St. Michael, it's not about anything being forced on my son. It's just about us being friends and basing that on whatever it is that we both like, and it could be anything. Um, so anyway, the crow feathers. So it started out with the crow feathers and evolved to COD, so the COD club.